Hardway. I'm joined now by Dr. Ed Scott. He's the athletic director here at the University of Memphis for a little over a year now, settling into the job, settling in this chair. First and foremost, just let me thank you for being here and for allowing us to be here. As you know, I'm an alum of this place, but embarrassingly, I don't get over here on the campus, boots on the ground, as much as I probably should. It's just nice to be back over here. Thanks for having us.
Well, first of all, thank you. You guys are doing us a favor, giving us a platform. So the feeling's mutual, and we got to get you back out here more. You talk about us enough. Yes. We got to get you back on grounds.
I talk about you enough. I would like to be boots on the ground more over here. Before we go wherever this conversation is going to go, I do want to ask you about some breaking news this morning. From the commercial appeal, Jason Munz has got the story. The University of Memphis has agreed to a new sponsorship deal with FedEx that will include FedEx branding within the end zones, a move believed to be unprecedented in college football and the NFL at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the release tells a lot of it. We're still working on the final renderings, so we'll have those probably ready next week to be able to get out. But this was the last piece of business that myself and, as I call him, Uncle Fred, but Fred Smith was we were working on before his passing. Wow. And I got to give his team credit. Kirsten Brasfield, Maureen Murray, Catherine Flea, Jenny Robertson is about 48 hours after he passed, they got back to me and said, look, we know what you guys are working on. We want to get this done. And this is a way for us to shift what they were doing before with NIL over to a sponsorship so we can actually use the money legally to support student athletes. And so we also wanted to give them more value, right, for the partnership. And we thought, Fred likes to be first, and he likes to do things big. And he's one of the first people I met in my lifetime when I brought an idea to him. It might not be fast enough or big enough. And so we're really excited for how this is going to support our program over the next 4 years. And as you know better than most, what's going on in college athletics, this kind of support is just instrumental. And we can't do what we do without the partnership with FedEx.
And FedEx has obviously always been there in a big and meaningful way now. And just on Fred, obviously he was, I would argue, the most important Memphian in the history of this city. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that he was quite literally working on your behalf, on this place's behalf, and up until the day or the week that he passed.
Oh, no question. I mean, it wasn't quite. It was actually literally the day before. I mean, he was still writing letters and making phone calls. You know, I got to say, Brad Martin, who I've been able to build a relationship, is a phenomenal supporter, as everyone knows. Richard Smith, Cannon Smith, Samantha have all been great. But you can't replace the person in Fred, right? The support is still there. But that guy could get anybody in the world on the phone with one phone call, including the President of the United States. And so the individual characteristics are going to be hard to replace. And for me personally, as a relatively young leader running a large business, I could call Fred at any time and ask him questions. And so to have that kind of access to what I call an oracle like that, it hurt me, personally. And it's going to hurt us a little professionally. But I love the relationship we have with the Smith family and FedEx.
So I mentioned you've been the athletic director here now for a little more than a year. I think it's roughly 14 months. Yeah. Whether you go back to R.C. Johnson or Laird Veach, any of the athletic directors I've known, they will all tell you that the Memphis job is a unique job with unique challenges. What in the past 14 months have you realized about that aspect of this?
Well, first is you, right? You watch everything we do. You got a large platform, so I got to make sure I'm on top of my P's and Q's. Otherwise, I'm going to get called out. But no, a couple things. I think one, as the athletic director, you always have a platform, right, wherever you are because you're visible. But in Memphis, it means more. It's just different. It's different than Virginia. It's different than Morgan State. It's different than Louisville, where I've been, all the places I've been. The Tigers, what they mean to this community, when we're playing well, it really galvanizes the community. And plus, we're in the city, but we don't have a lot of professional sports teams, right? So the Tigers become a lot. You and I were talking before we got on air about beat writers. Yeah. We have a lot of beat writers in a small, concentrated area, and so they're all trying to carve out elbow room as well. And then lastly, I think for me, Memphis has been everything I wanted it to be, right? Everyone asks me about the job, but that's only half of it for me. I have a 6-year-old daughter who's in the campus school, right? She's invested too. My wife is from Louisville. For the record, she has no red in her closet. And when we play Louisville in basketball, her and her family will be rooting for the Tigers. But she loves it here. The food is great. The people have treated us well. And the thing I'm most proud about throughout all the success we had this past, 13, 14 months is the team I've been able to build. You can recruit some talented to Memphis. I've been able to recruit talent on the administrative side, in my humble opinion, the same way Penny or Ryan or Brooks or any of our coaches can recruit student athletes. And you never know when you take a place what people are going to think, and I've been real excited about that.
Something you said there is something I've tried to, in whatever way I can, help people realize outside of this market. It's something I've honestly told Brett Yormark at some point. Memphis matters in Memphis in a unique way. Louisville matters in Louisville, but like Houston doesn't matter in Houston the way Memphis matters in Memphis.
Well said.
Or the way Louisville matters in Louisville. And I do think if there's a blind spot among chancellors and presidents at the Power 4 level, it's that. They don't understand what Memphis means here. And if Memphis is in a league with those types of league members, it will show itself well.
Oh, there's no question, right? And we have the market to do that. I mean, we've done our media evaluations, and we know where we stand, and we stand pretty darn good. And I think the other thing is Memphis gets a bad rap, and I've told our beat reporters this before. Some of the problem is them, right? It's the story we tell. And I don't hear people talking about Le Bonheur and how many surgeries they do for St. Jude or some of the other special things we have in this community. Part of my job, and you asked the previous question, is one of the things I didn't realize is the platform I have, right? There's times where I have the largest platform in this city, above the president or above the mayor, because I'm leading the Tigers. And so I think with the absence of Fred, it's incumbent upon me and Dr. Hargrave, President Hargrave, to really try to coalesce folks, because without Fred, we don't have that one person to do it. And the other thing is the corporate support. I think you saw that with the Big 12 announcement, that we have folks rowing in the same direction now. And so I think everything you said is right. I think you hit it right on the head.
It's interesting that you have recognized the opportunity to not only run the athletic department, but be a voice in this city and for this university, because it's important. And frankly, I don't just say this because you're sitting here. I've said it in your absence. You're good at it. You're good at this. You're good at telling your story and talking. And have you noticed that it resonates with people? You can get people to get on board with you.
Well, I'm chuckling because Terrence Lally, who's everywhere with me, and he's been with me since Morgan State, knows I'm actually an introverted person, man. I don't like the spotlight, but part of the reason I took this job, Gary, is when I was doing my research, when Daniel Parker and Delana called from Parker Search, I saw a commercial that said me in Memphis. And, I'm a first-generation college graduate, and we have a large population of first-gen students.
I am a first-generation college graduate in my family from here.
And Dr. Hargrave is the first in his family to graduate high school, right? And so there's commonalities. I grew up with a mom who never made more than $18,000 a year. We have a lot of folks who are Pell eligible and come from low socioeconomic status areas. And then the other thing is that Memphis has a chip on its shoulder, and that's just the way that I was raised, and because I didn't have everything, and I had to fight for it. And so for me, I think I'm able to reflect what Memphis sees in itself. And so when folks see a leader like that, they rally. To answer your question concisely, it hit me twice. Early on when I was going to Costco one day with my wife, so, a nice woman, an older woman, turned around and said, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" And I just said, "I'm doing well." She turns back around and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby." And I learned in Memphis, when older women call you baby, you better listen. And she goes, "You're the AD, right?" And then my wife said to me, she goes, "I now know why sometimes you want to stay in the house."
Right.
And then I was going to the airport one day, and I don't always travel with logos on me. And I got stopped in the airport several times by people telling me, "Thank you for what you're doing for our city." Right. And then randomly, as I'm walking, you'll be looking at your phone and you'll just hear, "Go Tigers, go." And I'll turn around and I'll be like, "Go Tigers, go." So it's hit me in different ways. It's a platform I'm grateful for, and something that I'm humble about, and I never want to take for granted because of the platform that I have.
I like that people said the words "thank you," because those are words as an alum that I have said to you in the effort that you guys clearly put together to create the big pitch for the Big 12 that surfaced last month. I've said this to you privately. I've said it publicly. Obviously, the result is disappointing. We all want to be in a better place, but I did walk away from that entire experience encouraged, because it's one thing when fans feel like they're in a place they don't want to be and nothing's being done about it. But even though the result wasn't positive, what that indicated clearly to me is that things are getting done. You're working. The president is working. The community business partners are working. And do you have a sense for whether my feelings are unique to me or, broadly speaking, true among Memphis alums and fans? I walked away from that feeling more motivated to do whatever I can do because I know you guys are doing everything you can do?
Yeah, I think there's a couple pieces to this answer if you'll stick with me.
Please.
And indulge me for a second. The first is I'm a human being, man. I don't like being rejected. If I interviewed for a job and they told me no, it hurts, right? If I said anything different, I'd be disingenuous, and that's just not my style. So that hurt, right? You never want someone to tell you that they don't want you.
Right.
So that hurt. But I read something a long time ago that really stuck with me, man, and it's this difference between a reaction and a response. If you go to the doctor and the doctor says you're having an allergic reaction to the medicine, it's bad. But if you go to the doctor and they say you're responding well to the treatment, right? So what I had to realize was the initial reaction was that people were upset because we didn't get in, but folks like you who have reached out and others who I appreciate and I pay a lot of attention to started to respond differently and saying, wait a minute, I see what Memphis is doing.
Right.
The third part of that for me is I've learned, because I was an AD at 36, I was really fortunate in Baltimore at Morgan State. I've learned that I have more information than most. Right. And so while you were killing me about the Pac-12, and you know I was going to get you live on that
Come on.
Right? It's all good. And that's the relationship we have, and I appreciate it.
Right.
You know, I had to sit tight because I also knew what we were working on.
Right.
And so as a leader, you have to know when you got to take it and then when you got to be out front. And it's a give and take at times. And so for me as a person, it's hard to listen to the criticism when people don't know what I'm working on. But I also know as a leader, my job is to do what's right for this institution, for the athletic department in the city, even when other people react a certain way. And I think that keeps me grounded.
One of the things you've made clear is that you're not interested in the mini jump. You want to be where you think the University of Memphis belongs.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, I don't want to speak for you, but you did very publicly reject an opportunity to join the new Pac-12. So you're thinking big, and yet the future is unclear.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what the next step is? I won't hold you to it, but you must have ideas.
Well, what I do know is what we can control is what Coach Silverfield and his staff are doing on that field, right? And I think sometimes in life, you got to have a little bit of faith, right? In anything. I always wanted to be an AD. I didn't know if I'd get there, right? It was uncertain. But if I prepared myself appropriately, when the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. And so our focus as a department is really on timing and circumstance, right? I think this situation is still very fluid. And let's be clear. The only reason why we didn't jump at the Pac-12 deal is because financially it didn't make sense. The worst thing I can do, and I think you know this in your heart, regardless of how passionate you get at times, is if we make a move and then we're not successful in that move. Right now, we have a path to the CFP. I was listening to you before, right? If we win the American and we position ourselves well, we have a path to the CFP. I think we've proven with Penny in my first year together that he can have a really outstanding year. He was picked second in the league, and you saw what he did. Brooks, I mean, he's the captain of what we call the coaches union in our department, right? He's just a doozy. And so I think we're positioned, we're ripe for success. And so what I don't want to do is make an intermediate move if it's not going to position us well. So what I'm sitting back is watching the landscape, right? You're hearing noise in other conferences. I'm not going to name them about schools may want to move. And so my job is to make sure when that opportunity presents itself and the circumstance is right, that Memphis is prepared 100% to take advantage of it. And that's what I work on every day.
People ask me this question all the time. I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Why doesn't the Big 12 want Memphis? Is it academics? Is it a football stadium? Is it the makeup of the city? When people ask you that question, how do you answer it? Is it complex?
I think it is complex. I think there's a lot of variables, right? I talked about the media and how they portray Memphis. That doesn't help us, right? I can't be the football stadium anymore because that thing is on time and on budget. And when your football coach walks up to you during the scrimmage and goes, hey, man, you're doing a good job. This looks really good. You don't get that a lot from your coaches, right? They always want something. And when they give you that compliment, it means something. I can't be academics anymore. We're R1, right? We set a GPA record as an athletic department last year, and Coach Silverfield and the guys on the field last year had the highest GPA for any football program in the American and won 11 games, right? So the NCAA stuff is part of that. You didn't mention it, but we've had a history with some NCAA issues, if I'm being transparent. But I think me and my team cleaned a lot of that up pretty quickly, and it ended as good as it could for issues that I didn't create or didn't happen during my watch. So when I hear those arguments, I think they're short-sighted. If I'm being fair to the presidents and the ADs in the Big 12, they've gone through a lot of transition in a short period of time, right? There's 8 teams that came into that league, and everyone's hurting for cash, and they're trying to figure out their identity. So I think some of it is maybe not Memphis, and some of it is them trying to figure out where they're at. But my hope is that everyone understands Memphis is in my opinion, and I'm biased, Memphis is the best of the rest. And when it's time that you're going to have to come calling on Memphis, and we've proven we're ready.
Well, that is something that I think people connected to Memphis have said for a while. I don't know if it's always been true. I do believe it's true now.
Yeah.
You are the best of the rest.
Yeah. Comprehensively.
Yes.
There are pockets in other places.
Right. It doesn't take me saying, like Pete Thamel would agree with me on this.
Yeah, Ross Dellinger.
They would agree with me on this.
Yeah, national spokespeople.
Yeah, who
reporters.
have no connections to Memphis. They would just best of the rest. It's probably the University of Memphis at this point. Your football program is winning. Your basketball program is winning. You were one of only 7 schools to finish in the top 25 of the AP poll last year.
The only non-P4.
What else can you do?
Well, I think we got to sustain it, right? Because you touched on this in the beginning of your question, if you will. You said, look, we couldn't always say that, even though we said it, right?
Yes.
It might not always be true if I'm quoting you correctly.
Right.
And so now I think it's true, right? And now you got to maintain it, right? The easiest thing to do in life is achieve something and fall off. The hardest thing to do in life is be consistent. You got kids, right? And to show up every day for your children, right, when you're tired or you're frustrated, it's hard to do. And I think sometimes when we look at college athletics, Gary, we forget the transferable experiences that apply to it. So for me, we got to be consistent. We got to continue to raise money. We got to get as close to full rev share as we can. And right now our facilities can compete with anybody, right? You see what we're about to do at soccer as well. And so my position, because when I was young, I got to watch Tom Jurich at Louisville. I think you have to be comprehensively excellent, right? If we're going to do it, I want to be the best at it. And so our position is, look, if they're not going to let us in now, let's keep beating them, right? And when I took the job, I said our goal was to be in the top 25 football, men's basketball, and God willing, we did it, because I didn't shoot a basket, I didn't call a play, which I would like to call some plays for Penny and Ryan, and I'm not sure they want me to. So with all that being said, I think we have to maintain, and if we maintain as the landscape shifts, I think folks are going to continue to see where we are. I think we send a shockwave through the athletic community with that Big 12 situation. People are now looking at Memphis a little bit differently than they were before that situation.
There is no question that is true. Within the past week, Bubba Cunningham at North Carolina has announced how they're going to split up their revenue share money, and in a pretty clear way. He says $13 million is going to football, $7 million is going to men's basketball, and then $250,000 each to women's basketball and baseball. Do you have those numbers as clearly defined yet?
We do. What I did is, I'm a strong proponent of you give people the resources to do their job, and then you evaluate how they do that job, right? I invest in the coaches, but I really invest in the programs to make sure we got the right coaches, right? If I'm going to give them money. So that's a more tangential answer. But to answer you concisely, what I did is I asked the coaches, how much money would you need in rev share, how much money in Alston, and how much in new scholarships, because all that counts toward the $20.5 million rev share number, and it's capped at 2.5 in scholarships and capped at 2.5 in Alston, right? And then the coaches gave us back the wish list, and then what we did with the money we have available, which at our level is, from what I'm gathering, is probably more than anyone else.
Right.
We then came up with a split. I did the first draft of it. I took it to my executive team. We sat down. They beat me up pretty good. I can tell you without going into numbers, because I think it's proprietary for us, because if we set the number at the group of 5 level, I believe other people are going to try to reach that.
Like, there's no question. If you tell me right now what you're giving Penny, Andy Kennedy's going to his AD at UAB and asking for as close to that as he can get.
Yeah, and my mama taught me a long time ago, you don't worry about anybody else's house, you take care of your own, right? And so that's where I want to stay. But I can tell you, if that's what they're giving women's basketball at North Carolina, we're likely giving the same, if not more.
Okay.
You've heard my comment about Kansas before, right? I know you read all the stuff I say. God bless you. We're in competition with Kansas if that's where they are with rev share. Now, they may have some additional outside money and collectives and all of that, and I can tell you that football's getting the lion's share. I've said this, and I want to say this to you because I've said it to Ryan, to Penny, to our department, and anyone who will listen. Basketball pays our bills, but football's got to be our future, right? Because if that was the case, we would have got into another conference right away.
The thing I have tried to, on that point, tell people forever, when realignment really popped off, like in the early 2000s for the first round of it, Syracuse was coming off a national championship in men's basketball with Carmelo Anthony. Nobody wanted them at the time. They went, Kansas, when everybody would, it looked like the Big 12 might die, Kansas was going to be the school with no home. basketball is awesome. We all love it.
Yeah.
It is not what drives where you're trying to get to.
No, it doesn't drive the revenue, but it also doesn't drive media attention.
Right.
There's something about America, and you see it with the NFL, right? It's the biggest brand we have in all of sports. You know, see, there's my guy. Look at him. Hey, get back to work. Right? But Gary, that's an example of the relationships we have, right? Relationships matter. But to answer your question directly, I think we've come up with a clear formula with football getting the most, men's basketball getting the second most, women's basketball is getting the third most, and then almost all of our other programs, and to be very candid and to drop this on your show, with the exception of track and field and I want to say rifle right now, and Terrence might correct me if I misspeak later because he's really good at that. But Brooks is getting rev share money.
Yes.
Right? I mean, men's and women's tennis are getting rev share. Gary, I want to beat you in everything.
There you go.
Like, when I get up in the morning, man, I'm looking to compete, right? I'm in the gym early in the morning. And so these coaches know that we're giving them support, but I expect results from that support. So we're positioned pretty darn well for our level.
Let's talk about that guy who just ran out. Entering year 6 now.
Yeah.
In the previous 5 years, he's 42-20.
Yep.
Nothing but bowl games.
Yeah.
Nothing but bowl wins.
Yeah.
I've nitpicked him.
Yeah.
I think most people have in this market.
Yeah.
When you frame it that way, it sounds pretty good. What do you make? And I'm not asking you to put a grade on it, but how do you evaluate Ryan Silverfield through 5 years?
Yeah, see, I evaluate them a little differently. The objective measures are easy, right? I can listen to your show and get those numbers. I don't even got to do any homework on that. I don't got to chat GPT it. I don't got to Google it, right? I don't got to do anything on that. For me, I look at the culture he's built in the program, right? Think about a guy like Seth Hennigan who could have got more money to go somewhere else and he stayed. What does that tell you about relationships with players? Look at his academics, right? He's not sacrificing academics and he's still beating you on the field, right? That means something. The discipline in his program, the behavioral issues that don't exist, all of those things matter. So when I look at Ryan comprehensively, we're similar in age. He's got twins now, right? I got a 6-year-old daughter. So for me, it's about growth, right? And I've seen you nitpick him and others, right? And Ryan knows we got to get to a conference championship. Whether we win it or not, that's his goal, and he's been clear about that. I can't put more pressure on Ryan Silverfield than he's going to put on himself, which means we got the right guy. And I think Ryan knows also if we get to a conference championship, it can position him for the CFP. And then the other thing is he's got to beat some teams above our weight class, right? And we got to do that with everybody. Penny's got to do it. Brooks just did it with Ole Miss, right? What I talk to our coaches about after this Big 12 situation, they'll all tell you, we have 3 goals in our department. Number 1 is health and safety for our coaches, student athletes, and staff. That's got to be primary. I lost Marlon this year, and that hurt me, right? And that's a friend of mine, and that really put things in perspective. Number 2, we got to graduate these young people. This is the University of Memphis. Because you graduated, you got a good job, right? And we all got to listen to you now, right? And then when I look at the third thing, it's win, baby, win, right? And everything we do leads to those 3 goals. While everything is complex right now in our industry, what I've tried to do is simplify it for our people and say, what do we do better than anybody else, and let's double down on that. And I think, that's what Ryan's trying to do, and our hope is that starting 10 days from now on the 30th, he's going to go out there and put the first W.
You mentioned that at your level, you might be spending more than anybody else.
Yeah, from what I hear.
I understand, from what I hear as well.
Yep.
Does that mean that the college football playoff should be on the list of goals for this college football program?
Even if we weren't spending as much as everybody else, it should be, right? If you don't have those goals at our level, I don't know why you're doing it, right? Like, I want to provide opportunities for young people. If I couldn't hit a baseball and run like when I was younger, there's no Dr. Ed Scott.
Right.
So that's first and foremost. But beyond that, if we're going to do it, look at the size of the scoreboards look at that scoreboard, Gary.
Right.
Look at our facilities, right? People pay attention. And I had it explained to me best by a young man at the University of Virginia. He said to a larger group, we were in a meeting, and someone asked him why he identified as an athlete. And he was just about to graduate from UVA, right? And that's really special.
Sure.
And he said, listen, when I take an exam, nobody can tell anybody what my grade is because of FERPA, right? He said, but when I get out on that football field, I'm graded by millions of people around the world because it's on TV. So if we're going to do it, the expectation is to do it at the highest level. If we don't reach the CFP, but we win a conference championship, that's a great year for us because we haven't done it in a while, right? We haven't done it under Silverfield. So I'd rather shoot for the stars and reach the moon than set these little bars, because I think in life, a lot of people fail because they set the bar too low and reach it, and then they settle.
Yes.
I'd rather keep pushing it. And so that's what I was hired to do. When I asked him on the interview, what do you want? Dr. Hardway was very clear, and his experience at Arkansas and Auburn, dictated dictate how he thinks about these things. The board was clear to me about what they expect, and I think that aligned with my vision. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the offer.
Couple more things.
Sure.
Let's talk basketball for a second. You're a little younger than me. I think 45 years old?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll be 46 in September 13th.
Okay,
man.
so
yeah.
right around the corner.
I got the same hair as you, too.
Early happy birthday. Is that? Do you have to shave it, or is it just go that way?
Oh, no. It started going that way. So I have a rule in life.
Same with me.
I won't hang on to anything that doesn't want to be hung on to.
Okay.
So once that sucker started going, I took her off, man. Yeah.
True story. I was watching a replay of a basketball game that I was sitting courtside at. Like I was working, and I was with my wife, and I see the cameras, and I see a bald spot. And I grabbed my wife. I said, "Hold, come here for a second." I said, "Is that what I look like?" And she was like, "Well, yeah." And I had no idea.
Exactly.
Boom, it's gone.
And
I'm
when
not
you
doing
first
it.
shave it, you don't know what's underneath that
That's
thing,
right.
man. It's a little scary, right? I thought I was going to scalp myself. Anyway, I digress.
Okay. So we're members of the same club.
Yeah.
My larger point was that puts you in an age range where you were a teenager when Penny Hardaway was becoming an international basketball star.
Yeah.
Do you have memories of him as a basketball player, you just growing up?
For sure. I mean, look, the Orlando Magic. I wore pennies back in the day.
Okay.
I don't wear them anymore because they're not the most comfortable things in the world, and they don't go well with my suits and my business attire as easy as these Blazers do. But, I knew all about Penny. I had followed his career. And, I got a lot of history with basketball, working at Louisville with Coach Pitino, working with Tony Bennett, Kevin Brodus at Morgan, who's a heck of a coach. So what really helped me with Penny was when folks found out that I was going to get the job, he called Tony Bennett. He's got a lot of respect for Tony. Right. And Tony said, listen, if you're looking for an AD, this is the guy I would want if Carla Williams wasn't my AD. Wow. When you get that endorsement from Tony Bennett, right? And we live in such a small community in athletics. There's approximately 300 to 350 Division I schools, as I learned from you today, 136 FBS. Folks know each other, right? And so Matt Reiser called Brian O'Connor, who's now at Mississippi State, and Oak and I had one of the best relationships you can possibly have. So I think the word of mouth, and as I said earlier, relationships matter. I think that really helped me quickly. And I had conversations with Silverfield, with Penny, with Reiser, almost all of our coaches before I even came in for the press conference, right? I wanted to let them know, look, I'm all in. This is how I operate. What do you need? And that's what Penny and I did. And listen, it doesn't always go great, Gary. You got guys who, like me, who have somewhat of an ego, who are competitive, and there's times where we got to shut the door and get on the same page. But what I love about our coaches, they've embraced my competitive spirit, and they're willing to tussle with me to figure out how to get it right. And when you have healthy disagreement, I think it makes any relationship or organization better. If we're just placating each other all the time, man, if you just said nice things about me all the time, it would be disingenuous because sometimes I don't do some things that you agree with. Right. And so that's how I've been able to work with Ryan and particularly Penny. What I told Penny candidly is, look, I know you can coach. I know you can recruit. What I think I need to help you with is running a multi-million-dollar organization. That's what I'm really good at, right? And I used to tell Dane Daines, and Penny would laugh all the time, Dane, you got to stop reaching out at half court. You're picking up early fouls. At one point, Penny asked me to talk to the team, right? Ryan asked me to speak to the team multiple times per year because I think sometimes, as a parent, that your voice gets drowned out.
Yes.
And I'm young enough to know where they're at and listen to some of the same music. And if you saw me outside my work clothes, you might not recognize me. But I'm old enough to know better. And so I'm still at a space where I think they use me strategically to blur the lines with their student athletes to say, listen, this is the boss of the athletic department. This is why we're doing it. And I love that, right? And it keeps me closer to the students when they do it.
Last thing before I get you out of here.
Yeah, I'll stay here all day because I got meetings all day, and this is a lot more fun because you've been really nice to me so far.
I appreciate you being here. Obviously, in recent years, we've seen women's college basketball explode.
Yeah.
We've seen baseball become massive, particularly within the SEC.
Yeah.
This is an incredible baseball market.
I
would argue we have more baseball youth talent here than even basketball and football.
Yeah.
But, and I double-checked it this morning just to make sure I was right, I think the Memphis baseball program has been in the NCAA tournament one time since 1994.
Yeah, it's not acceptable.
You're a former college baseball player. You care about this sport. How do we get baseball to a good place here?
First thing is we got to keep talent at home, right? And look, I've been very clear with Coach Reiser, right? We got to make the American tournament, right? Like we were one series away last year, right? And so we've shared some revenue with his program, and he's been able to retain some talent, and you've seen he's brought in some talent. So I think some of it is matching resources with expectations. I don't know that's always been the case. Some of it is me helping him in recruiting because because I know baseball, I would argue, and I may be wrong, but it's probably as good as any athletic director in the country. I was on the baseball committee where I met Kathy Zalentic, who's my deputy, for regulatory affairs. So I'm always there for Riser, but I try not to intrude, right? And so to answer your question, we have to get better. We have to get better sooner than later, and I think Riser's the guy to do it. But we got to do it, right? Execution, where I come from, is worship, and I think Coach can do it. And I think with the resources we're giving them now, the expectation is that we get into that tournament, we make some noise, and then that will show folks progress, right? Because the next time you talk about it, you say, okay, look, they took a leap. Dr. Ed Scott, as you like to call me, said it. They did it, and then now we turn our sights on the NCAA tournament. And don't get it confused. There's some really good baseball in the American, right? We're the southernmost school for a lot of other things, but when it comes to baseball, right, there's some schools in the South that are really, really good. So it's not like he's playing in Cupcake City either, right? And I have to keep that in mind, with golf, too. That's another one. When you're talking to the coaches, you got to understand the circumstances that they're facing and then figure out, my goal is always to eliminate your excuse. Tell me why you can't do it. I'll give you all the things that you said you needed, so that way you got no more excuses, and now it's time to go to work, and then we'll evaluate you fairly from there.
Dr. Ed Scott, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for having us out here. It's been awesome just to, again, put the feet back on campus from a distance, just as an alum. Really impressed by you, and proud that you are the person in charge of this athletic department. Seems like it's in good hands.
I've been waiting a long time to talk to you, man, and I'm really excited we got the chance. Thank you for your kind words and the platform that you give us. The feeling is mutual, and I know on behalf of you and all the alums, we got some more work to do, and I'm going to get right back to work.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, GP.
That's Dr. Ed Scott, athletic director here at the University of Memphis.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.